Hey guys, we're Retro Rivals, and you're watching Captain...
Wait. I got a game I want to talk about first.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
You can't show that.
Why not? Is it
could
dirty?
get you
Hang on.
Oh my God, Scott! I don't think it's a matter of it being dirty.
I'll
that
polish it.
game will get you.
Polish it. There. And Captain said you couldn't polish a turd, but I proved you wrong. You're watching Captain Algebra.
You're watching Captain Algebra. Go to timeout.
Oh.
Hey everybody, Captain Algebra here, and I'm back with another $100 challenge. So we've done the NES, we've done the Genesis, now we're going to do my favorite console of all time, the Super Nintendo. And let's say, out of the three that I've done, this was by far the hardest, because the Super Nintendo was such a fantastic console, has so many great games that it's hard to find super cheap games that are good. You know, it's like all the good games are at least $10 and above. And obviously there's some that are non-negotiable that I have to have, like I have with every console. And that took up, $20-30. So that just happens. But I did my best. It's so funny. Prices fluctuate so much. I actually did this 5 days ago. And when I tallied it up again, I double-checked the prices. It was actually lower than what it was 5 days ago. So I started looking for other games I could trade in, because some of the games I was on there, I was like, yeah, they're okay. I just kind of put them on there because they were cheaper and they're pretty good. But there were other games I would rather have. And so I found I had more money available. So I got rid of two of them and replaced them with one game. And I think we did pretty well. So let's go ahead and get started. First game comes in at $9.73. Home Alone. So Home Alone is not a good game, but it is a game that I grew up playing because my neighbor across the street, Curtis, had this game, and I always thought it was fun. I mean, I love the movies, at least the first two. After that, they don't matter at all. But it's just a fun game where you're trying to collect, each stage you're trying to collect certain things from the house, dump them into the basement so you can put them in the vault. Once you have all the items, you go to the basement, you fight a boss, which is usually like a rat or a spider or something like that. And then you put all the stuff in the vault, move on to the next level. There's actually some slight puzzle elements. There's some rooms that you go into where the wet bandits, Marv and Harry, come after you, and you have to do a certain thing to make sure that they get defeated, which is kind of cool. But it's a super easy game when you know what you're doing. In fact, we did this years ago for the Not So Weekly Retro Challenge back in the day, me and Back in the Day Gamer. And it's a solid game. I mean, I definitely suggest you try it out. Next game comes in at $10.29. Aladdin. We had Aladdin on the Genesis. We gotta have it on the Super Nintendo because it is a fantastic game too. Now, most people, it seems, prefer the Genesis version. I grew up with both, so I like them both. This one is definitely easier. It's just a straight up platformer. You attack enemies by jumping on them or throwing apples at them. I pretty much just jump on all of them. I don't tend not to throw apples. All apples do is like stun them. So sometimes it's a good idea to throw them at an archer to get them to stop shooting the arrows. Huge part about this game is getting the cloth that you can use to glide down. Really helps. This is just a fun game. Super easy, but they did a really nice job with it. Next game comes in at $10.99. Tom and Jerry. Now don't laugh. This game is a really good platformer. So I believe I first heard about this game when Jeff Good Gamer streamed it a few years ago, and it just looked kind of fun. And then Mega Dan played it, and he's like, yeah, it's a solid game. So I was like, I had some money, so I looked up the complete box version, and I got this thing for like $15 a few years ago. Now, complete in box, it's closer to like 30 or 40, but it's a really solid platformer. Not too difficult. You probably beat it in your first time playing it, but it's just fun, and I love platformers. Next, at $13.10, talking about platformers, Super Mario World. You cannot start a Super Nintendo collection without Super Mario World. Now, I'm in the camp that says Super Mario Bros. 3 is better, but you cannot take away how good of a game Super Mario World is. It's so amazing how much it changed from Super Mario Bros. 3 to Super Mario World. I mean, that cape is such an awesome power-up. You got Yoshi now. It's so much fun. I think the reason I prefer Super Mario Bros. 3 now is because I played Super Mario World so much once we got a Super Nintendo that it kind of got old for me. There was no challenge left to it anymore. And because that game has a save feature, I played it a lot more. Super Mario Bros. 3, I'd have to play through the whole game in a one sitting, which we've talked takes like 3 hours. So when you do every stage, like I do. So there was no way I was going to play that as often as I did Super Mario World. And so it kind of got old for me, but it's still a fantastic platformer. One of the best on the console. I will never say it's the best. There are some platformers I think are better. One of them, which you might see in this video, hint, hint. But yeah, you gotta have, for $13, it's a game you have to have in your collection for the Super Nintendo. Next up, at $14.76, Darius Twin. So I've really gotten into shooters the last few years. After getting to know Nefarious West a little bit better. Nefarious West loves shooters, and I never really played them that much because I was bad at them. But I started learning more about them, and it's just pretty much memorization for most shooters. And they are so much fun. The problem is, a lot of shooters tend to get pretty expensive, but this one, under 15 bucks, it's great. It's more of a, I think most of your enemies, I think if I remember correctly, it's been a few years since I played this, are like sea life, like there's like fish and stuff that you fight. But it's really fun. And I kind of went back and forth between this and Gradius 3. But Gradius 3 has tons of slowdown on the Super Nintendo, and it's one that I haven't really played that much yet. I know the Gradius series is fantastic, but at the end of the day, I had to go with Darius Twin. So we're down to 2 games left. Next one came in at $18.94. Batman Returns. So this was the game that I added today when I got rid of 2 other games. Well, when I realized I had more money, because you guys know I love beat 'em ups, and this is an amazing beat 'em up. It is so much fun to play, and the music is fantastic. It feels like you're actually playing the movie, right? It's like they literally took the score from the movie and put it into the game. It's amazing. Graphics are fantastic. The sound effects are great when you're hitting enemies or throwing enemies. It really sounds like you're actually taking these enemies out. The enemies come straight from the movies. You got the motorcyclists with the big skulls on. You got the big fat guy. I believe you got the guy who has like the gun in his little like music box. The one who always has a monkey on his shoulder. And obviously you got the penguin. Catwoman's in it. It's a fantastic game, and nobody ever talks about it for some reason, and I'm not sure why. But it's one I had to have. And finally, coming in at $20.40, the non-negotiable I had to have, and if you know me at all, you know this game was going to make the list. Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. My favorite game on the Super Nintendo. Had to be on my list. Sure, it's a fifth of the amount of money I have, but it's a fifth worth very well spent. I talked about earlier, Super Mario World being one of the best platformers on the console. In my opinion, the Donkey Kong Country games, specifically 1 and 2, are better platformers. I just love them. And maybe it's because they're so different. They were very fresh with the Super Nintendo, whereas Mario, is already in its 4th iteration of a platform game. And I've played these games so much. I mean, Donkey Kong Country, I did a no death run. Donkey Kong Country 2, though, is the one I've always played the most. Even back in the day, I always 100%ed it. Now, first time I 100%ed it, I totally cheated. I used the strategy guide. For some reason, I bought the strategy guide as a kid, and we never had any strategy guide. So I don't know why I decided to buy this one, but obviously it shows you where all the bonus barrels are. It shows you where all the DK coins are. So I basically almost memorized the game where everything was. Now, nowadays, I can't remember everything. I do play it quite a bit. In fact, I just streamed it for the Cartridge Club Game of the Month a few months ago. Yeah, there's times where I forget stuff. But for the most part, I know almost where everything is. And it's amazing the step from Donkey Kong Country to Donkey Kong Country 2. Donkey Kong Country is a fantastic game. Donkey Kong Country 2 just upped the ante, adding more different bonus levels. Added different animal buddies. Rest in peace, Winky, my favorite, but hey, Radley the Snake isn't too bad. Sorry, Peter. He's pretty good. The music is phenomenal. I still do prefer Donkey Kong Country's music over Donkey Kong Country 2's, but you cannot take away from this soundtrack. It's just a fantastic game. So there you go. There are my choices if I had $100 to start a Super Nintendo collection. So we got platformers, we got shooters, we got beat 'em ups. Probably my 3 favorite types of games. And like I said, Super Nintendo was hard. There are so many good games, but they just tend to be a little bit more pricey than games like on the Genesis and the Nintendo, the NES. So I challenge you, if you have not done a Super Nintendo $100 challenge yet, I challenge you to do it. It is super hard to find games that are cheap but good. When I was looking at my list of the games I had, I had like $10 left at one point. I'm like, God, they're all sports games. And now I love sports games, but they weren't the sports games I wanted to play. Now, NBA Jam was on my list at one point. That's one I took away. And then also Monopoly. When I was looking at this a few days ago, I was down to less than $10 left. I'm like, I need another game. I'm not going to go only spending $90 when I have 100. So I was like, oh, hey, Monopoly's fun. So those are the 2 that I took out to get Batman Returns in. But yeah, it was tough for Super Nintendo, but it was worth it because it's the greatest console of all time. So let me know what you think. How did I do with the Super Nintendo $100 challenge? And if you haven't done so yet, do one of your own. I would love to see it. So thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, this is Captain Algebra, signing off.